What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the 12th episode of the Talkin ATL Hawks podcast. The room looks a little lonelier today because Chase, my brother, who's normally beside me, unfortunately, he came down with the flu. He's running a pretty high fever, so he had to opt this one out. He's still up for the MVP award. He hasn't missed a lot of episodes, so he's not banned from any postseason award like Luka Doncic and John Moran. So he's all good. But he'll be joining us next week for episode 13. So for now, you got me and of course our other co-host John Joyner. Now I do want to start off by apologizing that we had to kind of delay this episode a little bit. Normally we record on Sundays, but it is currently Monday. Speaking of, happy MLK Day to all you guys out there. Be sure y'all celebrate the amazing work that MLK did in our pastime. But yeah, so we apologize for the delay. And another reason was because John, he recently attended a basketball tournament over in Birmingham this past weekend. So he was a little exhausted, but let's go ahead and clap it up for John. His team went 2-3 in the tournament, finishing in 5th place. Obviously could have done a little better, but hey, all that matters that he was out there, he was competing, and he balled out, and he will soon be the replacement for Clint Capella. So congratulations, John, and how you doing? I'll let you get the floor.
Like I said, I'm very exhausted still. I stayed up kind of like just relaxing. I couldn't really sleep that well, but we could have done a lot better. We realistically could have done could have been like 4-1, which mean like stuff happens, but hey, we're still like learning how to play as a team because we don't get to practice a lot together. Most likely the owner Hawks, when we're still trying to figure out like our true identity, especially because we're missing some key players.
Every single week, yeah.
We haven't had Zachary for a few games. But hopefully we get him back before Thursday's game when we go to see the Hawks play the Raptors because I would like to see a full healthy Hawks starting lineup play against the Raptors. I'm looking forward to this week.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun one. And for those who don't know what he's talking about, we are going to be attending the Hawks and Raptors game that's going to take place this Thursday. So we are hoping that Zachary is fully healthy because, of course, you want to go out there and see the number one overall pick ball out. It's tons of fun to watch him play in person. Chase and I had the privilege of seeing him play twice, and I definitely would like to see him play a third time this Thursday. But I guess we'll go ahead and open up the episode. Last time we left off, we were kind of sobbing over the fact that the Hawks and Rockets game got postponed due to the snow that was in the area. The temperature is still very cold. As a matter of fact, it was 18 degrees this morning. But thankfully, there is no snow, which means we will have Hawks basketball for the rest of the week in Atlanta. But we will start off with the game that happened this past Tuesday where the Hawks took on the Phoenix Suns for the second straight game because, of course, before that Rockets game got postponed, we just came back from a road trip out in Phoenix where we lost 123-115. So this was kind of a little bit of a revenge game for the Hawks, not wanting to get swept by the Suns in Atlanta. But, of course, as us Hawks fans know, we always play a lot better in Atlanta. So I'll go ahead and kind of set the tone for what went on in this game. Then I'll throw it over to John. So, of course, the game gets kicked off early. And now when you're playing the Phoenix Suns, and we talked about this last episode, the main threats you got to worry about is, of course, a three-headed monster in Devin Booker, Kevin Durant, and Bradley Beal. Though Bradley Beal has been kind of on and off the court due to some inconsistency and injuries, he was on the court in full effect. Not in the starting lineup. He came off the bench, which he has been doing a lot lately. And Grayson Allen is the only other good bench piece that the Suns have. Because other than that, the Suns bench is out there with one of the worst and most least threatening in the entire NBA. And that goes to show because the Suns' offense production, when KD, Devin Booker is off the court, it drops tremendously. And that's kind of what kind of helped the Hawks boost them over to a win. Because spoiler alert, the Hawks did win by 5 in that game. But of course, I do want to kind of throw out the biggest statistic before I throw it over to John, and that's Trae Young's 43-point performance.
Yep.
The shooting wasn't, as efficient as it could have been, shooting 13 for 31, but what was efficient was his three-point shot, shooting 6 for 12. That is a smooth 50%. The assist total was down. This is more of a throwback Trae Young kind of game where he was more efficient on the scoring side rather than the assist side. He did have 5 assists, and his assist to turnover ratio was really well. He only had – actually, no, I lied. He had 6 turnovers that game. Let me take that back. But nonetheless, the 43 points did hit, kind of took away those 6 turnovers. And it was a really big factor for the Hawks, especially down the stretch, because the Suns really, as the Hawks kind of have done all season, we really struggled going to that third quarter. Scored 41 points in the second quarter, giving us I think a 2 or 3 point lead heading into halftime. But then the Suns go out there and win the third quarter by 10. So the Hawks were playing from behind in the fourth quarter, and it was a back and forth battle all the way to the end. And that's kind of where the Hawks really took off, was in that fourth quarter. Let's see. Where we won 33-30. So, yeah, and I'm sorry, the Suns won by 6 in that third quarter. I don't know why I said 10. But nonetheless, down the stretch, Trae was able to use that playmaking ability that he was kind of shying away from for the first 3 quarters to really create that separation when he was guarded by players of the likes of Devin Booker and Kevin Durant. Because, mind you, Kevin Durant and Devin Booker combined for a total of almost 70 points. I think it was 66 in total. So there's no question that Kevin Durant and Devin Booker were very effective. So it took a 43-point performance from Trae Young to separate the Hawks from the star-studded players. But, John, what did you like in this game?
I mean, a woman like you said earlier about Trae Young, like 43 points. Yes, his assist totals were down, but that's what I like about Trae Young. He can have like games where he drops 43 and like low assist numbers, but when he's not shooting the ball well, that's when his assist numbers go up. He'll recognize and say, and be like, oh, okay. Since like I'm not shooting the ball well, I'm still impact the game by dropping 20 plus assists, and that's what I like about Trae Young. When he's shooting bad, he'll dish the ball out to his teammates like Johnson and Reese and Daniels. But when he's feeling himself, he'll drop 30 plus points a night, and that's what I like about Trae Young. But also I didn't mention this, so I will. Onyeka Okongwu, 22 points and 21 rebounds and one assist. My God, wow, we'll get to this later, but I'm glad that we're starting him now. I'm glad that we're starting him now, and then also Gary Matthews, his 19 points. Trae Young didn't really have that much help from his starting his fellow starters.
Not at all.
The one that really helped him was Vic, but Onyeka and then Onyeka and Bogies stepped up because we didn't have Hunter out there because of his left foot injury. But it was just very good bench play, and I love to see that.
Yeah, 100%. And you said it. The Clint Capella and Zachary Richshire, who's in the starting lineup, was really quiet from the field. And Dyson Daniels was too, only posting up 9 points. He did have 3 steals. So, the defensive side of him was still there and in full effect. But you said it. Onyeka Okongwu, with that 22-21 rebound game, he became the first Hawks player in Atlanta history to post a 20-point, 20-rebound game. And that was really, and of course, us as Hawks fans, we've been pleading all season. Okongwu needs to start to develop and mold into the starting role over Clint Capella because of how elevated his production on the court has been these last 2 seasons, especially this season in the last 2 months. And this game really kind of just made me get on my knees and beg. Wake the GM up and shake him. Do whatever you have to do, because seeing a guy so young and so talented like Onyeka Okongwu get 22 points on 9 of 14 shooting with the 21 rebounds, 10 of those being offensive boards. He created a lot of second chance points for this Hawks team, which really kind of swung the momentum in our favor down the stretch. And Clint Capella, he was sitting there in the starting lineup getting more minutes than Okongwu, only getting 3 points on 1 and 2 shooting, and his rebounding was kind of lackluster as well. So this was really the game where I really kind of had to just sit there and, just wonder why in the world is Okongwu not getting the starting minutes. And like you said, we'll get into later in the episode, but we finally got to see it today. But yeah, big win for the Hawks. And John, I'll let you kick off this one, but this is probably the game that I'm most excited to watch. And it's the game that took place on that following Wednesday. The Hawks had a back-to-back, which can be very tough, especially for a team that was just coming off a very long road trip out west. And Chicago, that is a place where the Hawks go to die. Historically, we have never, ever played good in Chicago. And we had to go in there without players such as Trae Young, DeAndre Hunter, Jalen Johnson. Of course, Larry Nance has been out pretty much what feels like the entire season at this point. And Zachary Richshire, of course, was out of this game as well. So our starting, let me go and read the starting lineup, and I'll let John take the floor. We had, we had David Roddy, Clint Capella, Keaton Wallace, Vitt, and Dyson Daniels, and then we caught up Daquan Plowden from the Skyhawks G League team to make his NBA debut, and man, was he almost perfect from the field. But John, I'll let you get started. Tell us about this game and how it went down in Chicago.
I just have a question. Like, why do we always play good without our starters? Like, why do we always play good without them? I don't get it.
I can't tell you. Like, it's one of life's biggest mysteries.
I don't get it. I mean, because like going back to the Celtics game a few months ago, we won without Trae Young. I don't get
DeAndre Hunter. Yeah,
I don't get it. And we had neither this game as well. We didn't have Trae or DeAndre this game as well. I don't get it. But I mean, like you said, Plowden only missed one shot 7 for 8 from the field, finished with 19 points. Keaton Wallace, 27.
Preach.
I think it's something after. Correct me if I'm wrong, but like I think it's something after this game, like only we need to like keep him on the roster, but we send him back down to the College Park Skyhawks. Like that's a shame because I think Keaton's the perfect like bench replacement for Trae Young. Like when we need to give Trae Young like a rest, we put in Keaton Wallace. Like I don't know why we sent him back down. Like especially because how we play like in summer league too. Like he played really good. Summer league. Like I think I really think the league deserves to stay up here in Atlanta. But hey, like if he needs more development, then that's for our GM to decide and who are we to say that we need him. I mean, we're just fans. We don't know nothing about Hawks basketball. We're just fans. But
you're right, yeah.
But Okongwu, another double, 14 points, 13 rebounds.
See more production.
Shot 1 3 and made 3. But other than that, I mean, Bogey had a stinker, shooting 1 for 10, which was a 1 3-pointer, and then Gary Bird, who had a stinker himself. Who didn't shoot anything from the field, but I guess had three free throws. I guess, but because he had 3 points, so like he must have gotten from free throws. But I mean, I just don't get how he plays so good without like star players like Trae Young and DeAndre Hunter. But I mean, hey man, I'll take a win over the Bulls.
It is, and it's very comforting, and I think there's some key factors that go into it because going into this game and knowing how bad we played in Chicago over the past few years. I wasn't expecting a win at all. I was expecting us to go to 20-20 back to 500 after this game. And Keaton Wallace, this is a guy that we saw, of course, in the G League play spectacular. And then at the start of the season, he was, in Atlanta for the first couple of weeks, and we saw him get some playing time off the bench, like you said, behind Trae Young. And I remember in particular, it was, I believe, the third game of the season. We were playing in Oklahoma City against the Thunder, and we know how great, of a team that's developed to be this year. And Keaton Wallace coming off the bench just really just kind of turned my head. And I know these two players that I'm about to mention had completely different play styles, but it was him coming off the bench was giving me kind of like Lou Williams kind of vibe coming out the bench just because of how well he was connecting with that mid-range jumper, especially with the defender in his face. And I was really impressed by that. And we kind of saw him really step into a star kind of mentality in this game because without Trae Young, he had to be the main source of playmaking. And though he only had let's see, 6 assists in the game, which is still pretty good for a guy like Keaton Wallace. His ability to drive to the basket and get tough layups by drawing in contact was absolutely incredible. And his plus-minus total was 29, which just shows how much of a game changer he was when he was on the court. And he really took command of the floor. And even on the underneath the basket, he was able to get 6 rebounds and create, transition buckets by, getting it, down the court of teammates like Dyson Daniels, who passed it a bit for some threes, and it was just all around. The young core was connecting really well, and it really made me wonder when Trae Young, when his time in Atlanta is all said and done and that sun sets, the sun that's going to rise with Keaton Wallace and this young core really gets me excited. And, of course, Zach Reed when he gets back healthy. And it kind of makes me, realize that the Hawks foundation has really strengthened underneath the feet of Trae Young. And most people are thinking in the back of their heads, once Trae Young moves on, the Hawks are going to go back into rebuild mode. But I beg to differ. I think what we're doing is quietly building a stronger and firmer foundation underneath Trae Young. So once he moves on, that those roots can continue to expand and we can get a good solid rotation going. And then of course we got to talk about Daquan Plowden, who made his NBA debut. And ladies and gentlemen, he shot a near perfect 7 for 8 from the field, 5 for 6 from threes, connecting for 19 points. And oh my goodness, was his shot form smooth as butter. I mean, every time he shot, it hit nothing but net. And it really alluded to what DeAndre Hunter does from the wing, where he's able to, kind of hesitate when the defender is on him and get the defender to back up a little bit, just a touch more, so he can get that jumper, because he's got a long wingspan. I mean, we're talking about a guy who is 6'6", 216 pounds. He's got a pretty wide wingspan for a good forward, kind of like DeAndre Hunter. And as we get this guy more and more developed in the G League, he's going to be able to, compliment DeAndre Hunter off the bench once Hunter kind of steps into that starting role. And I'm excited for it. I am all for that, because those are two guys with so similar play styles, and they're so lethal from the wing spot. And I was really impressed from what this young core is able to do, getting a dominant 110-94 win. Defensively, holding an NBA team to less than 100 points nowadays is almost impossible, and they were 6 points shy of that 100 mark. So, well-deserved, hard-fought win for Atlanta. Before taking that trip to Boston, where the Hawks had the season series tied at 1, and it all came down to this game. And, John, I'm going to let you start off with this one, because this was an overtime thriller. Take us through what went down in TD Garden.
So, unfortunately, I couldn't watch the game, but I was keeping track on one of my teammates' phones, because
Right.
one of my teammates, Jacob, he's a Celtics fan, so we were both like,
oh wow,
we were both like watching,
okay.
we were both watching the GameCast. We're also like having eating at team dinner at a hibachi restaurant.
Nice. So, I love hibachi, bro.
Yeah, no, it was good. But I mean, like, we were both like talking like trash, like across the table, like yeah. But
you have to.
I mean, like, I literally like don't know how we won this game, because like both teams did very well. I mean, I mean, like Tatum had 23, and Derek White had 21, and Brown had 24, and then Peyton Pritchard off the bench at 20,
That was
and
incredible. Yeah.
yeah, and then but I mean, like I think it all came down to Trey to Jalen Johnson's 14 and 13, Trae Young's 28 points, 11 assists. That there's a double double. Dyson Daniels very only missing three shots.
Yeah.
Shot 11 for 14 from the field, 40 minutes. I mean, ended with 23 points. But then Okongwu again with a double double, and I think this is what solidified his, and I think this is the game that solidified his starting
He was
role.
clutch. He was clutch in that fourth
19
quarter.
points, 13 rebounds, 6 for 10 from the field, 2 for 3 from 3 point. And then Hunter had a solid 16 points. Garrison Matthews again. Again had a stinker with 3 missed shots, but hey, I mean, hey, like it happens. But
He was on a little cold streak. Yeah.
I mean, it's like going back from like what I saw in that game, like both Johnson, Okongwu and Trae Young all had like some clutch plays, and Dyson
Sure.
had some clutch defensive stops as well. So I mean, yeah, that's all I gotta say on the games. Because again, I couldn't watch it because I was at a dinner, but I was able to keep track of the score that way. But
Yeah, and what I saw, because I was able to watch a game, early in the game, Trae Young was really struggling from the floor. I mean, in that first and early second quarter, he had his, space, and his shot creation was there. Like, he was able to create those good opportunities for him to, get some points up. He just really wasn't connecting. So his field goal percentage didn't look that great to begin with. So he had to lean on the return of Jalen Johnson. This was Jalen Johnson's first game back, and a good handful of games. He pretty much missed the entire road trip out west and wasn't with us for the first for that game against Phoenix or that game against Chicago. So it was about 7 or 8 games since we've seen Jalen Johnson last play, and his presence was known right off the bat, getting 14 points and 13 boards. A lot of those, let's see, he had 13 rebounds, only 3 assists. He had the steal and a block. And again, you already alluded to Clint Capella sitting there at the starting role with 3 points, while Okongwu off the bench with 19 points and 13 rebounds. And though Clint Capella only had 3 points, I have to say he did probably have the best highlight of the night. When he made the back, because Al Horford wasn't playing for this game. So the Celtics had Luke Cornett. Yeah, Luke Cornett in the starting spot. And Clint Capella made Luke Cornett his lucky charm. I mean, absolutely. He caught a ball from an inside pass from Trae Young and just absolutely went up and dunked it on Cornett with one arm. It was absolutely incredible. So, although he had 3 points, I will hand it to him. He did have one of the best highlight plays of the night. But yeah, and then and this was a game where I kind of saw a different side of Jason Tatum. Now, this is a Boston Celtics team, being the defending champs. They were they're really struggling this month of January. January has not been kind to them. Losing, I believe they lost 3 of their last 5, but they're coming off a win against the Magic, and it was a really dominant win. And I don't know what kind of role Jason Tatum was trying to step into in this game, but I feel like Tatum tried to do way too much, and this field goal percentage suffered because of it, shooting 7 for 21. And I think you could tell that Jason Tatum, he was visually frustrated throughout the entire night, and I think it had a lot to do with Dyson Daniels' defensive presence, because Dyson Daniels, he only had one steal and no blocks. But what he was doing was his post defense on Jason Tatum was kind of taking away his bread and butter. Because, of course, Jason Tatum, he's one of the best post scorers in the NBA. Cannot deny that. But he was not allowing him to use that hip movement to create that separation on that subtle step back. And I think Jason Tatum was kind of at a loss for words. He was struggling to find a secondary answer, to get points. And he was even struggling to drive inside because that was one of the best defensive games I've seen a Kongwu play off the bench, getting 4 freaking blocks, 2 of them coming on Jason Tatum himself. And Jason, I think that frustration kind of got into his head, especially down the stretch. It was kind of late in the third quarter. Trae Young was really starting to find his groove. He was on a nice scoring streak. He finished the night with 28 points and 11 assists, and he did have 5 turnovers. I want to point this out for all the haters that have been saying for years on years that Trae Young cannot play defense. I want you to go back and hold on. No, I was going to pull up the highlight, but it's going to take me too long. I'll just explain it. But there was a moment on a fast break where Trae Young threw the ball, tried to squeeze it inside the paint to DeAndre Hunter, and it was tipped by, I think it was Holiday, and Jason Tatum, Jason Brown, or Jaylen Brown, and Luke Cornett went on a 3-on-1 fast break. Trae Young was the only defender back there. And of course, when it's a 3-on-1, the one thing you want to do is just you got to give him the free. Just stand in the paint and try to take away any easy inside shots. But for Trae Young being so undersized, he was sitting there alluding to the offense that he was going to stay on Connect the whole time and just let Jason Tatum drive to the basket. But Jason Tatum dished it out to Jaylen Brown, and then immediately Trae Young stepped up to Jaylen Brown, kind of like a quick little hezzy, making Jaylen Brown throw a lob to Luke Connect, and then Trae Young backed up and contested the lob and won the 3-on-1 fast break. I just thought that was absolutely incredible to see from your starting point guard because it was a really crucial moment in the game too. Celtics really kind of left a lot of easy points, in transition because of the Hawks' great defense. And then, of course, Okongwu was very clutch down the stretch, sent the game into overtime. And then it was an overtime where we saw Dyson Daniels taking it into the paint, kind of had a sweet little spin move, floater jumper to give the Hawks up by 4. And ever since that point forward, the Hawks really took over. And one of my favorite, of course, we love Bob Rathbun, the play-by-play commentator for the Atlanta Hawks. And there's a moment in the fourth quarter where the Celtics had the 2-point lead. I think there was like a minute left in the game. All of TD Garden was standing up chanting, "Let's go Celtics." And I mean, the place was booming. Well, I had to – that place was loud. And then by like the minute mark of overtime, it was dead quiet. And Bob Rathbun was letting those Celtics fans have it for being so quiet. I mean, you could hear a pin drop. And I just absolutely love that flip. And, yeah, this is a very, very big win for the Hawks, especially facing the Knicks the very next game on MLK Day, which we're about to get into because that game took place at 3 o'clock and we're recording at 6. That game just ended about an hour ago. But, yeah, that was a huge, huge must-needed win for the Hawks to boost our winning streak to 3 games, getting us 3 games over 500. And we won because of that. We won the season series against the Boston Celtics, a team who has had our number for the past years, including in the postseason. So that one felt good. I don't know about you, but that one felt really good.
Not only that, we beat them twice in their home court. Like the one time they beat us, it was in Atlanta. The one time they beat us, it was here in Atlanta, and they beat us by 30. We beat them by 1 back in November or October. I can't remember, but no, it was it was October. No, December.
November 4th. November 4th was when they beat us in Atlanta. Then November 12th is when we had that win during the NBA Cup.
Right.
And then, of course, the game on the 18th of January.
Yeah. So not only did we beat them twice, we beat them twice in Boston. One of them was during NBA Cup play, which we needed, which we needed that win. So, you know what? I'm glad we own the Celtics. Hey, Jackson. Hey, Jacob. We own y'all. We own y'all Celtics.
And trust me, I let Jackson. Jackson is a friend of ours at West Georgia, by the way, so he's a Celtics fan. So I let him have it that night for sure. But I do want to say before we move on to the next game, one thing I absolutely loved, and we've seen it more and more from Trae Young as he's developed into his 7th year in the NBA, is that game really showed that even when your star player like Trae Young struggles from the field in the first half, and I mean, he was struggling bad, he was able to have a short memory, shake that bad shooting percentage off his shoulders, and go out there and be the clutch point guard he's been all season. Because his step back 3 with 2 minutes left in the game is really what did it for the Hawks to get that game into overtime. And I didn't even mention the possession the defensive stop that sent the game into that sealed the deal in overtime. Hawks, of course, was up by 2 points. Or sorry, 2 points. It was a 2 point lead, and the Celtics were inbounding with like less than 30 seconds left,
Yeah,
and
wasn't it a turnover by Jaylen Brown?
yep, it was. They forced the ball inside the paint to Jaylen Brown, who was guarded. No, Jaylen Brown had the ball, and he forced the ball to Jason Tatum, who was in the paint, guarded by DeAndre Hunter. And like I said, the Hawks had Jason Tatum locked up in the post, and DeAndre Hunter was able to tip the ball loose. Jalen Johnson got the ball, which led to the intentional foul and got the Hawks a 4 point win. But it's just when you're able to shut down such a lethal player like Jason Tatum and hold him to just 7 made shots, it's going to help you get a win against any team in this league if you're able to do that to their star player. And you've been saying it from the start of this podcast, Joyner. If the Hawks are able to minimize what the opposing team star players are able to do, the Hawks had the talent to get that upper edge, and that's exactly what we did in Boston, and that's the reason why we got that 4 point victory. But of course, earlier today, the Hawks went to Madison Square Garden for the second time this year. Our Airbnb, like you said last episode, Trae Young's second home on MLK Day. And the Hawks, I got to say, every time the Hawks play on MLK Day, there's just something about it, just something about, the holiday, the celebration, the recognition. It just, I don't know, it gives this team a different energy. And we have always played very well on MLK. So I was really excited. Going to the Garden, Hawks led the season series 2-0. If the Hawks won today, it would have clinched the season matchup against the Knicks. And I was excited going into it, going to Madison Square Garden. Of course, during the player introductions, Trae Young's name was announced, and everybody in the stadium was giving them that hardcore boo because, everyone just loves Trae Young in New York.
Yeah,
and
he's a favorite player.
And my favorite moment before the game, of course, Spike Lee is like the Knicks super fan. He's always sitting courtside at every Knicks game. And Trae Young went up to Spike Lee to kind of, give him a big hug and kind of talk to him before the game. And Spike Lee was like joking around with him. He was like, "You got to get off me." He's like, "I can't be seen with you in New York. Like, these guys will hate me if they see me hugging you." And I just thought that was a funny moment. But yeah, John, why don't you get started? We were both able to, catch this game. I was out in Hiram, so I was only really able to catch the second half. But kind of take us through it, John. What went down in New York?
Well, like we just said, like about 2 minutes ago, if we play good defense on one of the other team's best player, we win. Unfortunately, we couldn't do that because
nope, not tonight.
Because Brunson and Mikal Bridges both had shot pretty crazy shooting nights. Brunson shot 12 for 18, 3 for 5 from 3, finished with 34 points and 6 assists. And Mikal Bridges shot 12 for 17 and 1 for 2 from 3 with 26 points. Josh Hart finished with 14 and 9, and then Campaign finished with 10. And then for us, Trae Young had a solid. And Trae Young didn't shoot the ball well. Shot 8 for 22, 6 for 12 from 3. And then Okongwu's starting
debut, baby.
And this was unfortunately Okongwu's starting debut.
For this season, yeah.
Unfortunately, did not get the win, but hey, hopefully that's gonna come eventually. Jalen Johnson had 11 for 12, 11 points, 12 rebounds. And Vic Krejci had 11 points himself, and Dyson had a quiet 10 points. But DeAndre Hunter had, he's been consistently dropping 20 off the bench. And then Capel coming off the bench shot 5 for 9, and then had a solid 12 and 9 off the bench. So because so I really think that now that Capel's getting now that Capel's getting older, I think this is a good role for him now. Not having to play like 25 plus minutes, can play about like 20 minutes a night. And just like mentor Okongwu, I
Yep.
think that should be his job now. Like now that he's coming off the bench, and now and this should be like a Kungu's time to shine uh, in our starting lineup. So hopefully this was a permanent change in the starting rotation. But I mean that's all up to Coach Snyder. So
Yeah, and I mean Capella's only 30 years old, so it's not like
yeah,
he's aging really really fast. I mean he's still
yeah,
got at least if he wants to another 10 years in this league. But a Kongwu, I think it's what we've been talking about every single game that we reviewed this episode. Is a Kongwu has been playing at such a high level that I think there's a conversation in the locker room, maybe right before this game, because there was no real word that was released about a Kongwu getting the starting nod. I mean, it really caught me by surprise when they flashed a starting lineup on the screen and I saw Kongwu's name and not Clint Capella, because I knew Capella wasn't injured. So I was like, dang it, Capella's really coming off the bench. Like the day has finally come. And I think it's just really all in favor of the elite level of play that Kongwu's been able to produce on the boards and especially in the scoring, category. And like you said, I mean, this is a game always highly anticipated when the Hawks play the Knicks, especially in Madison Square Garden. Back-to-back games in the Garden. We were first at TD Garden where we got the overtime win, hoping to do more justice and go up 3-0 in the season series against the Knicks. But, Jalen Brunson, he was on fire early. And like you said, Trae Young, he was struggling from the field a little bit. He was really connecting on three early. He shot 6 for 12 on threes, but started the game 5 for 6, and he had 18 points at the half. So it's kind of one of those things like, Trae Young, he wasn't really getting much production going inside. He was more reliant on the outside shot than what we're used to seeing this season. And his assist total was very low. He wasn't the elite playmaker that he's usually is. Because when he comes to New York, he averages 28 points and almost 13 assists. So it just wasn't that kind of night. From the three ball, he was doing some justice. And, there's kind of a weird narrative going on today because out of the blue, Cameron Payne just decided to become public enemy number one for not only Trae Young, but for the Atlanta Hawks. I mean, I'm not even joking. The guy only scored 10 points and shot 3 for 8 from the field. So it wasn't anything spectacular, but every time he scored, he would get up, scream, yell, make some kind of odd gesture to Trae Young like he was Kevin Durant. I'm like, dude, you're Cameron Payne. Like, let's calm down a bit. I mean, sure, you're a solid bench piece, but you're out here talking like you should be wearing the crown. Like, you're lucky enough to be able to tie up those laces and get on the floor every game. So let's just calm down a little bit. But I got to hand it to him. He did hit a clutch and 1-3 in the third quarter, early fourth. Can't really remember, but still. It was a big momentum swing. So I'll hand it to him. He had a big shot in the game. But I do want to talk about DeAndre Hunter coming off the bench. I mean, my goodness, especially in that third quarter and early in the fourth quarter, he was on fire. I'm talking about he went through a shooting stretch where his mid-range and three-point shot was money. It was automatic, and he had a confident stroke to his shot. And I love the gestures that go on during this game because of course you had Trae Young. Because Cameron Payne was talking, Mikal Bridges was talking to Trae Young. I mean, they were just chirping all throughout the entire first half. And there was a moment where Trae Young and why did his name slip me? Mikal Bridges were kind of guarding each other in the paint on an inbound, and the camera flashes over to them, and Mikal Bridges is saying something in Trae Young's ear, and Trae Young keeps kind of pushing him, shoving him, and Trae Young forces a turnover. So Mikal Bridges is already, kind of like rolling his eyes, like whatever, let's get the stop. And then Trae Young takes it down the court and hits a step back three on Mikal Bridges and does a little too small gesture. And then we saw DeAndre Hunter do the same thing when he scored on Cameron Payne. He looked at it wasn't Cameron Payne. It was, I believe this one was Landry Shamet he scored on where he did the too little, but still, it was the narrative was hilarious. But unfortunately, the Knicks and the Hawks opened up the game up 18-8. I mean, the Hawks shooting to start the game was ridiculously efficient. So it's a real shame that we couldn't kind of find that connection, especially in the fourth quarter. The Hawks shooting went really, really cold in the fourth quarter, shooting under 40% from the field. And that's really what did the Knicks justice and pulled them because I got to say, this game was hideous. This game was absolutely hideous. And it made see that the Hawks were still able to be competitive down the stretch because we had 23 freaking turnovers. And Trae Young, he had 9. Trae Young had 9 turnovers. We have never seen Trae Young reach 9 turnovers in about 3 seasons. I mean, this is like early Trae Young level turnovers that absolutely killed a lot of the momentum swings that the Hawks were starting to gain down the stretch. And I gotta say, it wasn't pretty for the Knicks either. The Knicks also had, let me see, 15 turnovers, 21 turnovers. So only 2 less than the Hawks. And I don't know about you, John, and I think I can speak to just about everybody who sat down and watched this game. This was one of the worst officiated games I have ever seen in my life. And I'm not sitting here saying, oh, the Hawks lost because of bad officiating. No, I'm saying even some of the calls they called on the Knicks were absolutely terrible. And if you don't believe me, let me just throw this number at you. Both the Knicks and the Hawks used both of their challenges in this game. And the Hawks and the Knicks went a combined 4 for 4 on the challenges, which means the officiating crew missed 4 crucial calls that could have shifted the game in either direction at any point. And these officials have to be evaluated by the higher ups because you cannot have a game run that poorly. And it got to the point where there was technical fouls getting thrown left and right to Trae Young, Karl-Anthony Towns, Mikal Bridges, Dyson Daniels. I think all 4 of those players had at least one technical foul call on them because they kept arguing with the ref over ridiculous nonsense that was consistently aggravating throughout the game. So, yeah, that game was a pain to watch. If the Hawks didn't play so sloppy in the turnover numbers, we could have pulled this game towards the end, but we didn't. We had to live with the fact our 3-game win streak came to an end, and now we are 22-20. Yeah, it was rough. Rough one.
Yeah. Speaking of bad officiating, I mean, like, there's nothing you can really do about it. I mean, they're human; they're gonna miss calls. I mean, you can't really do anything, and it can't be dumb enough to like argue about it because, like you said, like if you get like text and stuff, you can get ejected. I mean, like bad calls are gonna happen. You gotta be human and just push through it.
But, yeah, stay composed.
Yeah, Hawks couldn't do that. I mean. We just couldn't like push through and finish the game how we wanted to. But I mean, hey, good game by the Knicks though. But
yeah, and I have to give the Hawks defensive side their flowers because aside from Jalen Brunson and Mikal Bridges dropping about 30 points, Karl-Anthony Towns was really shut down in that second half, only dropping 13 points in total on 5 of 18 shooting, and he's normally very efficient and killer from that three-point line, but he only had 1 3-pointer the entire night, which came late in that fourth quarter. So I will say, even though we lost, we really did slow down Karl-Anthony Towns' production because he's been on a tear. And now we get the day off on Tuesday, but on Wednesday, right before that Raptors game on Thursday, the Hawks host the Pistons. For those who don't know, the Detroit Pistons are 1 game over 500, and Cade Cunningham, that is a force not to be reckoned with because he has averaged 24 points on 45 shooting. So I'm very excited to watch the Hawks and the Pistons in action on Wednesday night, right before we visit them at State Farm Arena, visit the Raptors at State Farm Arena on Thursday. But, John, do you have any closing remarks before we wrap this beautiful episode up?
No. I'm just I'm wishing Chase a speedy recovery. I mean, like I said, like you said, like he's dealing with the flu. One of my teammates actually got sick on Sunday, so we didn't have him for our last game.
Oh wow.
So like something must be going around. Hopefully I'm not sick. I feel fine right now, but thankfully I have zero in-person classes this week because of the snow day we got tomorrow.
I found out about that. I was really excited.
Yeah, and my Wednesday and Thursday classes got canceled too for some other reasons. So I'm just gonna quarantine in my room until Thursday, so I don't catch whatever is going around because something's going around. But hopefully we can. Hopefully we can get the job done against Detroit on Wednesday. But if not, I just want to see the Hawks win against the Raptors on Thursday, and I can't wait for the game.
And, we play the Raptors back-to-back on Thursday and Saturday. So if we get a win against the Pistons, that is a big opportunity to get 2 easy wins and go right back on another 3-game winning streak. But, yeah, and one last thing before we end this episode, for all you Hawks fans out there listening, this is the very last day of All-Star voting, and the votes count triple. So this is the last chance for us to make a final push to get Trae Young, Jalen Johnson, and maybe Dyson Daniels in that all-star lineup. So get on the NBA.com, get to the voting, and get at least Trae Young and Jalen Johnson in there, because this is our last chance to make that final push. But thank you guys so much for watching episode 12 of the Talkin ATL Hawks podcast. We plan to get right back on schedule, recording this next episode on Sunday. Well, we will be giving you guys a recap of how our visits to State Farm Arena went. Hopefully, we'll be boasting about a win. But until then, I am Andrew Jefferson, and for my partner, John Joyner, we will see you guys next episode on episode 13. Stay safe out there. Go Hawks, baby. Go! That was clean.
Let's go.